Hello, Americans. Stand by for news.
Exclusively on ESPN Plus, UFC 313, Saturday. Reigning light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira defends his title against number one contender Magomed Ankalaev, and an explosive lightweight bout between Justin Gaethje and Rafael Pazzi. UFC 313, Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Buy it on ESPNPlus.com/PPV.
This episode is brought to you by Coffee Mate. After watching this season of the HBO's original series, The White Lotus, this is the tropical getaway I needed. One more pina colada, please.
Hey, you're not on mute.
Oh, I thought I was in paradise. Turns out it was my Coffee Mate. Coffee Mate Pina Colada and Thai-iced coffee flavored creamers. Inspired by the newest season of HBO's original series, The White Lotus. For the love of coffee. Try now.
This is the Classic Guitar Rock Daily Update. All the classic rock news of the day. With your host, Jeremy Lunnan.
Hey, it's a Monday, and it's time for us to get together and do this. It's the Classic Guitar Rock Daily Update. I'm Jeremy, and thank you so much for being here. Let me throw out a plug. If you haven't checked out Classic Guitar Rock Radio, today's the day. Today is the perfect day to check it out. I'm going to see what's playing right now. I'm just curious what we are missing right now on Classic Guitar Rock Radio. Right now, playing on, hang on here. Oh, it's I Don't Know by Ozzy Osbourne playing right now. That's what's playing on Classic Guitar Rock Radio right now. I got some emails about it. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. But let's hop to the news if we could. Queensryche. Now, Queensryche, they split. They're in it's a soap opera, like Rat, like Motley Crue, like many of the bands that we've loved over the years. It's a soap opera. They've split up. Jeff Tate's no longer with them. Jeff Tate apparently had a charisma bypass surgery that went wrong years ago. He has no personality. I don't know anytime I've heard an interview with him, I've wanted to call 911 for someone to go check his pulse. But that's neither here nor there, because Queensryche has been touring for like 10 years now with, is it Jeff Latore? Jeff? Is that his? No, it's not Jeff. Todd Latore, who seems like a great guy, and he does a good job. I saw footage of Queensryche appearing on one of these rock and roll cruises recently, and they sounded really good. I mean, I know you always have the purists. Well, if Jeff's not there, it ain't Queensryche. If Steve's not there, it's not Journey, right? You get that. I understand it. But at the same time, you're missing out on a chance to hear some great tunes. Because Queensryche live that I've heard with Todd Delatorre. Sorry, I'm not getting his name right. They sound pretty good. Anyways, where am I going with this? So Michael Wilton, who was one of the founding members, a guitarist in Queensryche, he was on the Aquarian. It's a show. Was this a show? Is it a podcast with Brian Aberback? Anyways, they're doing this Origins tour, and a lot of bands are doing this. Priest has done it. Lots of bands. They'll go back and perform classic albums, which is awesome. So, Queensryche did what they called an Origins tour, where they did the EP and the Warning. Those are the albums that put Queensryche on the map for me, right? First time I saw them, I'd never heard of them when I saw them as the opening band for, it was Queensryche, then Motley Crue, then Quiet Riot. Okay. So this is 83, end of 83, maybe, right? When the EP came out, I rushed right out after that concert and bought the Queensryche EP. And to be honest, I enjoyed Queensryche better than Motley Crue or Quiet Riot at that show, between you and me. But anyways, so he asked Michael Wilton about this Origins tour, because now they've gone back and they do this tour where they do all of the EP, Queen of the Rock. They do that. They do the Warning, with Take Hold of the Flame and all that. And I got to be honest, guys, those are still my two favorite Queensryche albums. I mean, Empire was the massive success, but I prefer The Warning and the EP. Probably the EP is my favorite. But he was asked about, their idea to do this Origins tour. And Michael says, quote, "It came about last year. A promoter asked, have you ever thought about doing the EP and the Warning in their entirety? We said, well, let's think about it. And it just kind of blossomed. We said we'd do it at this Hell's Heroes Festival in Houston. Then ticket sales were through the roof. We thought, hey, this would be a good thing to do. It was born out of that. And our manager put it together. And then our booking agent put it together even more. All the venues were highly interested in it. So for us, it was okay. Let's get it going." He continues, "It's pretty amazing to go back and play those songs. We played a lot of them. So there were only a few we had to kind of relearn. It's all challenging, progressive, and heavy music. At our age now, we're still crushing it." So they're at least my age. So they got to be late 50s, probably early 60s, some of the guys. And Michael went back and talked about the EP, right? Queensryche's, they were smart. Okay. They were very smart. They had a different, I remember even at the time reading interviews and reading press about Queensryche is from the beginning, Queensryche from a business standpoint was very smart. They were smart. They were backed by a smart management group. So even as an opening band, they had like a nice bus. They way nicer than bands usually had. They had, they were very professional. And I think a lot of that has to do with their own business acumen and then their management group. So here's what he says about that. When you're 18, 19, 20 years old, and with the technology back then, guys, this is mid 80s, right? Early to mid 80s. We were just making demo cassettes and jamming on them. Before Queensryche, we were called The Mob. We were playing roller rinks. We were performing everywhere, playing covers of Judas Priest, Dio, AC/DC, Iron Maiden. Then we decided to write music on our own. We kept hammering out riffs and ideas and songs. We got to a point that we could afford to go into a studio at that time. So many bands, what they do is they just play clubs, hoping to get noticed. Well, these guys spent a lot of their time and money in the studio. He says, when we recorded the EP, we could only afford the graveyard time. We had day jobs, so we were recording the album at night. That's when Jeff Tate came in and things just went from there. We took a mastered cassette to our management at the record store. They all worked at this record store. They played it and people in the store were going, "Who the hell is that? Oh my gosh, that's killer." It was a slam dunk. We put out the 206 record. 206 is the area code in Seattle where they lived, or Bellevue, I think was the area, which was released by our management at the time who owned the record store. After we sold 50 to 60,000 of those records, the record companies were knocking on our door. EMI offered us a 6-record deal. We said, okay, let's do it. So they started with the approach of selling records. And guys, think about how smart that is. Because what's the gamble that a record company's making? Well, we think we can sell records if we sign these guys. Well, guess what? These guys had already sold 60,000 records just in Seattle on their own. So, I mean, just a really smart move, and good for them. And like I said, the EP and the Warning, love those albums. Love those albums. And by the way, you'll hear a lot of Queensryche on Classic Guitar Rock Radio. You should check it out. Motley Crue. Last week, they released Dogs of War, the new video, which it's not terrible, but not that great. Video's terrible. I don't know. Anyways, Motley Crue appears to be teasing a secret club show at New York's Bowery Ballroom for May 6th. Yeah. There's a flyer they shared on social media, a flyer for an event where the band looks like they'll be performing under the pseudonym 1981. That's what they're calling themselves. Tickets set to go on sale May 3rd. And the show's May 6th. So it's just, a lot of times, big time, the Stones would do this, right? They just pop up and play in a club somewhere. It's kind of fun, right? They go from playing in a huge studio to playing in a club. It keeps them on their toes, right? It's fun for them. And I think this is what Motley Crue's doing. So if you're in the New York area, it would be kind of cool to go see them in a little club like that. When's the last time they played in a club? It's kind of cool. Crue's performance at the Bowery Ballroom will take place 2 days after the band plays 2 back-to-back shows in Atlantic City, New Jersey on May 3rd and 4th. These will be their first live appearances of the year. And this is not the first time Motley Crue has staged a secret club show. Last June, they performed for 450 lucky fans at the Underworld in London, England. Wow. So be on the lookout for that. In a venue where most bands play their first gig as part of their set, the band, vocalist Vince Neil, bassist Nikki Sixx, drummer Tommy Lee, and guitarist John Five performed their iconic anthems, Shout at the Devil, Dr. Feelgood, Girls, 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 and they did a cover of the Beastie Boys, You Gotta Fight for Your Right to Party. So there you go. Something smacks of when guys are 65 singing about fighting for your right to party. It's just not the same. I'm just going to throw that out there. So now the thing that's happening, we've talked about this several times, artists getting grumpy at audience members, right? We talked about Roger Waters does it. Now Mellencamp is the serial grumpy old guy. Bruce Dickinson, who kind of has a history that his is, I'm going to cut him a little slack. His is a little different, right? With Roger Waters and Mellencamp, they're up there lecturing, they're lecturing, they're going into political rants. And then people in the crowd get tired of it and say, just shut up and play your music. And then they get nasty at the people and insult them and swear at them because they have the audacity to want to hear music, that they bought tickets for. So it's slightly different. In Bruce's case, it's usually, and yes, I'm cutting slack to Bruce because in Bruce's case, it's usually because the people are being a-holes. Okay. And so so case in point, Bruce is playing at this Brasilia show. So he's down in Brazil and someone's smoking something. And apparently at least he thought someone was spraying pepper spray. So there's a video of Bruce and he says, quote, I can't effing breathe. Tanya, who is Tanya O'Callaghan, I think she was in Whitesnake for a tour too. She's the bassist for Bruce. He says, Tanya can't breathe. You with the effing vape over there. Yeah, it's not you, but please effing do that outside. All right. If you can't stay for 5 minutes without having an effing addiction, but somebody down here has been using pepper spray. Some effer has been using pepper spray, which is why people can't effing breathe down there. Right. So, if you figure out who the F it is, I just don't care what happens to them after the show. All right. In the meantime, we will try and do the best we can. So Bruce is a little irate, can't breathe. Members of his band can't breathe. In a separate video, Bruce added, quote, I do apologize for coughing. Some of you effers are smoking. All right. I can't sing if you're going to smoke. All right. Tanya's coughing her guts out. I'm coughing. My effing wife is going blah in the back where, all right, it's kind of disgusting. All right. But if you want to be disgusting, do it outside. All right. Not in here. My throat's got work to do. You pay good money to hear me effing sing, not go blah, blah, blah. All right. That's a quote. So, is Bruce out of line? Is he out of line there? It's a little different, I think, than just getting mad at people because they're frustrated you won't shut up and sing, right? And in fact, the venue released a statement or the agent, I don't know what you call it, MCA Concerts released the following official statement. Quote, Saturday night, over 2,000 fans filled the Opera Hall in Brasilia to see Bruce Dickinson on the third show of his critically acclaimed first Brazilian solo tour for over 20 years. An incident occurred towards the end of the show where noxious fumes were released, causing severe issues for the band members on stage and the crew and audience in the auditorium. Subsequently, many members of the crowd have taken to social media to corroborate the incident that caused them breathing difficulties. As video footage shows, Bruce did his best with limited knowledge of the situation to explain the effects to the crowd, but subsequently found out that several band members, including himself, were affected by the fallout, and a member of the crew had to be treated with oxygen by a doctor. The footage also shows Bruce departing the stage to perform part of the encore after being seen visibly struggling to breathe and pitch his vocal. Tour promoters MCA are still working with authorities to understand the full impact of the incident and understand how the noxious fumes affected not just the audience and crew, but also the band on stage. So there you go. You know, here's what's interesting. Back in the 70s, I didn't live in a home with parents who smoked, right? So I was fortunate in that way. But back in the 70s, most adults probably, this is based on my memory. Growing up in Oklahoma, right, the places I lived, most of my friends' parents smoked. So you'd go in the house and it would always smell like smoke. You ride around in a car with your friend's family. They're smoking in the car with the windows up, right? It was just it was a different world back then. And I'm only bringing this up because like a week ago, my son and my dad and I stopped and visited a relative who smokes, right? And it had been so long since I've been in a confined space with a smoker that you forget how overpowering that is if you're not a smoker to get around people that just smokes. And it's like, I'm looking at my son and I'm looking at my dad and all of us, our eyes are watered and I can tell we can hardly breathe. What's my point? My point is, and I think this is a good thing, fewer people smoke now, but because of that, when you're around it, I think you're even more sensitive to it and it bothers you even more. And when you're in a confined space, like an arena with lots of people, and if there's a lot of people smoking, yeah, it's brutal. And if you're up on stage and it sounds like there might even, what kind of jerk takes pepper spray or something to spray? And, some people are just jerks. Some people are they're jerks. They can't do anything without annoying other people and they're just jerks. So I think that's part of Bruce's reaction. So anyways, let's move along, shall we? I have some emails. I'm going to the mailbag and I'm excited to share these because they're about this great new radio station. Perhaps you've heard of it. Classic Guitar Rock Radio. Classic Guitar, it's hard to say. Classic Guitar Rock Radio. If you haven't checked it out, you got to check it out. Let me share just two emails. Well, these are the only two emails I got about it, but I'm going to share both of them with you. This one is addressed to CGR Radio. It says, "Hey, Jeremy, I follow you on X and try to catch the daily updates. To be honest, since you've been hawking your new radio station, I dismissed it. I assumed it would be like every other online radio station. They all sound the same and play the same stuff, and you're dealing with clunky technical issues like 30 seconds of dead air between songs or train wreck segues between songs." A segue is when the songs blend in together, right? He says, "I have a background in radio and these things bug the hell out of me. LOL. I agree." He continues, "Well, this weekend, I finally gave CGR Radio a listen. Wow. Check that out. Wow. I did hear some of the funky technical glitches inherent in online radio." He's right. Sometimes, and I'll be listening and it drives me crazy that the song fades completely out. And it's like 10 seconds till that. Yeah, I get it. And there's even a setting in there for cross fading that you think will address, but it doesn't. I still don't understand how you fix that. "I did hear some of the funky technical glitches inherent in online radio, but I have to tell you, I love the mix of music. Seriously, I loved it. And I was surprised to hear an actual human being, you, talking a few times an hour. I'm assuming it's all pre-recorded, but it sounded live. I'll never tell. Anyway, I wound up listening for several hours and enjoyed it. I will be a regular listener. Jake B., Lansing, Michigan. Jake, you don't know how much it means to me. Thank you very much. I think the mix is pretty cool. I think you're going to hear songs you haven't heard in a long time. It's a little broader mix than a typical classic rock station would play. Because I'll tell you, I play some stuff. I play Midnight Oil. I play The Call. I play The Fix. I play Blondie. Yeah, you'll hear some of that you wouldn't hear on a classic rock station. Because I think they're cool tunes. Anyways, speaking of that, one more email. This about the radio station. Hey, CGR. Listened to the radio station a bit yesterday. Thanks for playing some killer tunes I haven't heard in forever. In the space of about 30 minutes, I heard I Won't Be Home Tonight by Tony Carey. Great song. I won't be home tonight. Tony Carey, of course, was in Rainbow. Also went on to do Planet P. I mean, what's not to like about that? In the space of about 30 minutes, I heard I Won't Be Home Tonight by Tony Carey and Wait For You by Bonham. Yeah, Wait For You by Bonham is on the playlist. Do you remember that tune? It's a great song. Love both tunes and haven't heard either of them on the radio for decades. Thanks, Sarah in New Jersey. Sarah, thank you. You made my day. And so let me just say this in closing. Check out Classic Guitar Rock Radio. You'll like it. 40 hours a week is all I'm asking, guys. That's all I'm asking. Listen to it for 40 hours a week. You know what? If you listen to it for 40 minutes a week, I'd be happy with that. Anyways, guys, thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in to the updates. Thanks for the podcast. Thanks for everything that you do. Have a good one. We'll do it all again tomorrow. Live long and prosper.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Thanks for listening. You can email Jeremy at classicguitarrock@mail.com.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Tune in each weekday for the Classic Guitar Rock Daily Update.